guys? It is Carl Brown for GuitarLessons365.com. Got a great one from Pantera today. We're gonna learn how to do 10's. So this has one of Dimebag's greatest solos in it. So we're obviously gonna take a look at that thing note for note, but everything else along the way as well. So before I get into it, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell, you know, all that good stuff. Comment on these videos and share them. Hey, people used to share videos. Maybe people can share this one. And if you truly want to support what I do here on YouTube, you're gonna see a link to my Guitar Academy. That's how I make a living. And you can see that in the description below. That link is actually going to give you a free 7-day trial if you've never had an account before. But it gives you 40% off. It's a special kind of YouTube rate. You're not actually going to see that price on the website. You have to go through that link, and it'll take you to the website and give you that special price, which gives you 40% off my yearly rate. So it's a huge discount just for watching my YouTube videos, and it's the best way to kind of support these YouTube videos as well with these thousands of song lessons I put out here. So anyway, check out my academy, all my courses, a lot of good stuff over there, great community. Please come join us. All right, so let's jump into the track. So technically, well, no, it's not technically. What's the word for, whatever. So this is in D standard. However, Dimebag liked to take the Hertz setting. It's not the rental car place. It's like the whatever. It's the tuning of it. Usually, if you're in any kind of, if you're tuning your guitar, you're tuning it to what's called A440. So that's kind of considered concert pitch. It's what the A is going to ring at. How many, whatever. It's physics. If you drop that down to like 432 or 425, which Dimebag like to do a lot, and then your tuner will read like you're tuning to D standard, so you're tuning to a D note, but it's actually sounds a quarter of a step flat. So that's what he did. So, and he would change up. You can go on forums, and it's fun to watch people argue about this stuff, like how much he detuned and what album he detuned this much on and this album. But what it actually is D standard, and then that tuner is at that specific Hertz setting that's below concert pitch. So technically, this is like almost right in the middle of C sharp standard and D standard. But the way he would probably see it on the tuner is D standard, all right? It's a tuner setting. So you just might have it, you might be able to dial it in. I had to kind of do it by ear, but for this lesson, I'm tuned to regular D standard in concert pitch. So it's not that in-between stuff. So just tune your guitar to D standard, which is everything down a whole step. So that's the low D, E tuned down to a D, the A string tuned down to a G, the D string tuned down to a C, G string tuned down to an F, B string tuned down to an A, and the high E string tuned down to a D. All right, so let's jump into it. So rhythmically, this is one of the easier Pantera tracks. The solo is not easy at all, but this has got some really cool, like acoustic stuff in it as well too. So we're gonna start with this first rhythm. It starts like that. So what's going on here? What he's doing is he's bending. You can use whatever finger you want, but he's bending this D string up, and it's important to bend it upwards. Usually, when you see Dime, when he would play, even when he's doing bends with his index finger, which he did a lot, he'd bend them upwards. So kind of an unconventional technique he used a lot, and he does here. So the notes that are happening here on the D string, you'll see it throughout the song when they're bent. He's bending them upwards. How do you know that? Well, when you bend this, you're bending this note on the 4th fret there on the D string. By the way, I'm going to call it like it's a standard tune guitar. So obviously that's tuned down to C, so it's a C string, but we're going to call it a D string because it'd be really confusing otherwise. So we're going to be bending that note up a half step and then bringing it back down. But while we're picking that note, we're also going to be hitting the open G. So if we bend it down, we're just going to mute out that G string. So that's why it gives that riff that really kind of dissonant sound, because it's kind of they're kind of really clashing those two notes as it's bending up in pitch. And then I like to do it with my pinky, because then that allows me to just grab the F sharp minor chord that comes next. So that's a full bar at the 2nd fret, and then the 4th fret there on the D and the A. So pick the low strings first, and then the high strings. So we have this. Then do the same riff, but you're gonna just do a one big strum at the end of it. E. So you can slowly start adding the distortion while you're kind of hanging on that F sharp. Just add a little bit more volume to, so basically I got the full tone on there right now, but I just have the volume really roll off. And then bring it into full. So just a little note here, when he's playing the volume's all the way up, and he's doing that bend here, you're gonna hear him catch the B string in there every once in a while too. So you're gonna hear like this. You hear that note in there. So you hear that not every time, but when he's really kind of digging in, he's kind of hitting that string every once in a while. All right, so that makes up the verse. It's the same thing as the verse. It's just kind of the lighter version of that riff with a little rolled off volume knob, and then the more full throttle version of it. And then we have the chorus, which once again, we have some bends on the D string. The first one doesn't really matter which way you bend it, and the second one, it does. It looks like this. So we're doing that at first, but he starts adding a note to this riff a little bit throughout the song, which is the reason why you have to, especially on this note, you have to bend upward. So the riff, it looks like this. Hit the low E string, and then play 2, slide the 4, and play 2 on the A, and then 2 on the D, and then half step bend and release. Kind of a slow half step bend and release. Then you start over. But when you get here to that 2nd fret on the D, then instead of bending up the 4th fret there, a half step, it's going to be this note. So all together. All right, so then it goes back to that same main riff, that kind of, and then we get back to this chorus again. And now, especially in the second chorus, is when you start hearing him add this extra open G string in there. So he kind of does it on the 2nd and 4th time through here. So this is played twice as long the 2nd time through. It looks like this. So that, what I'm doing there is I just, when it gets to that 2nd fret and you'll have that open G, you do the bend, and you hit that open G under it. That's why you gotta pull it upwards, push it upwards, because you don't want to mute out the G string. And then it goes back into the bend again and release. All right, so like on the second chorus, you hear that done the 2nd and 4th time through the chorus. And then in the next chorus, it kind of does it every single time pretty much. So as you get to the end of the song, he's kind of doing it every time except for that very last, which we'll cover later on. All right, so that is the second chorus, and then at the 2 minute and 36 second mark, I don't know where these markings are. I think that's a Spotify marking, but where the YouTube official YouTube video or in the Spotify markings might be a few seconds different, but it's 2:36 on the recording on the Spotify version, and we have this acoustic riff that comes in. It's really, really cool. So I'm going to play through this riff. This riff repeats for a while, and then it goes into the harmony section that happens over it, and then it's a good part of the solo is just the same riff until the 3 minute and 27 second mark towards the end of the solo. When it gets really melodic, it gets changed up a little bit. But so I'm going to show you this first acoustic riff that happens as kind of the bridge of the song under the harmony section and under a majority of the solo first. And then we'll fast forward it to the acoustic parts that happen underneath the very end of the solo. So this first riff looks like this. All right, so it's going to do that for quite a while, so like almost like 50 seconds of that. So what this riff is, we're going to start, we got this going on as kind of this little, it gives it that kind of airy quality about it. So you can play this just like this, I like using my pinky, but it doesn't really matter. So we have the second fret on the A, fourth fret on the D, open G, and then the third fret there on the B string. So all you have to do is really, you're just gonna keep these two fingers here, whether you're playing them with it like this or here, you're gonna keep those there the entire time. All right, so you're just basically gonna be moving around the bass line a lot. So we have this, you're gonna pick so if you're holding that first chord, I just went through, so you're holding that second fret there on the A. You're gonna pick the A to D, B, and the open G. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this index finger, move it over to the second fret there on the low E. And you're gonna pick the second fret there on the low E, fourth fret there on the D, and the third fret there on the B string. So and then you're just gonna move up to the third fret there on the low E string. This one's kind of held a little bit. So you have that third fret on the low E, then third fret there on the B, open G. So this. Then the open low E string. Then that fourth fret there on the D string. Then the open high E, the B string that you're holding at the third fret, and the open G. So all together nice and slow. So it kind of has a lot of that fourth fret against the open G string, which just really kind of gives that riff its quality. So it's a really cool little arpeggiated part that he repeats over and over again for like 50 seconds. And so, like I said, it happens underneath that bridge. And then we have this harmony section, which I'll talk about the harmony section before we get to the solo. I'm not going to do all those harmonies. He loved kind of layering all those harmonies. Just kind of give you like, here's one line that you can play. It's kind of the most important line, I think, in each one of those harmony voices. And so there's just one voice at a time. So not a harmony, but a little melody you can do there leading into the solo, basically. So that's going to be going on over this section. And then we're basically at the solo rhythm, what's happening under the solo. So it's that riff I just showed you for a majority of the solo until we get to the 3 minute and 27 second mark. And things change up quite a bit. So right there, like that's the Spotify thing. So if you want to know exactly where in the solo this happens, it's a 3 minute and 27 second mark on Spotify. But it looks like this. All right, does some cool, and then it goes right back to that previous one with the harmony happened after the solo again. All right, so this one starts here. So that's gonna be the 3rd fret there on the low E, the 4th fret there on the D, open G, back to that 4th fret on the D. He's really milking those 2 notes. And then you're gonna have the open high E string, 3rd fret there on the B string, open G string. And then you kind of the same thing, but at the 2nd fret on the low E instead of the 3rd. All right, now here, we're gonna go up here. So I'm gonna move it up here because it sounds like, one, it's kind of the only way to get all these notes in here, whether this is one acoustic or whatever. So it starts off, you hear 2 notes together, which is the 5th, the kind of a D power chord, and then you hear that, and you can't, you can't have all those notes ringing down here. So you're gonna have to do it. So it makes it easier to play anyway. So it's just standard. You basically hold the D major chord, the 5th fret there on the A string, 7 on the D, G, and the B. So pick the A and the D string together first. Then you're gonna pick the B string, which you're holding at 7th fret, open high E string, then the 7th fret there on the G string. And then you can lift up this finger, but take the index finger down to this 4th fret. And he kind of mixes up the order of the notes. It's like going. So that means 4th fret on the A, but then B string, then the G, then the high E. So you kind of mix it up a little bit. Kind of cool. All right, and then back to some more normal chords. This is 2 on the A, 4 on the D, and 3 on the B. So you pick the A, D, B, then back to the D. So on a B minor chord. Then the open A string, 2nd on the D, 2nd on the B, back to these 2nd on the D string. So it is. All right, and then we're gonna come down here and end it like this. So you play this first 3rd fret down the low E, let it ring for a second. And what you're gonna wanna do on top of this, once again, you're gonna hold that 3rd fret there on the B string, and then that 4th fret there on the D string the whole time. So you're gonna change the bass note around. So we have that 3rd fret there on the low E string, then you're gonna pick the B, remember you're holding it at the 3rd fret, open G, and then open high E, that 3rd fret on the B, open G, then that 4th fret on the D. So we have this. From there, we're gonna move the bass note from the 3rd fret down to the 2nd fret. And then what we're gonna pick is the E string, D, B, G. So we have this. And then you're gonna move this bass note from the 2nd fret of the low E to the 1st fret on the A string. So that's better to be holding that on the pick anyway, so you don't have to do it straight like that. So that's just that 1st fret there of the A, and the other thing's the same. So we're gonna pick the A string, D, B, open G. So all together that ending. And then it just goes back to the with the harmony stuff after the solo there. All right, so that's what's going on for the solo. So now, leading into the solo, we have that harmony section. So back to the delay, the distortion and stuff. Now, I'm just gonna do a little melody line that kind of uses those. He's basically taking a melody and harmonized with a bunch of different guitars. So you can really choose whichever one you want, but I'm choosing these. So I'm gonna do this kind of leading into the solo. So look at this. Happens over that little bridge riff. Into that solo there. So I'm just kind of sliding in to that, switch to the neck pickup, which is gonna be playing the solo in as well. And then I'm sliding to the 12th fret there on the B string, and then 11, 12 on the G. And then come down here to this 7th fret there on the D string. Slowly start bending it up. And then it sounds like we start the melody over, but we're gonna kind of do a little different. We're gonna go into, slide in that 12 to the 11 on the G, and then into a slow bend at that 7th fret on the D string. So all together. Into the solo. And so anyway, that leads us into the solo itself. So I'm gonna play through his solo starting from that section, and that part right there, and then I'll show you how to play it note for note. So that was one of Dimebag's greatest solos. I think most of the big Pantera fans agree with me on that one. So let's check it out. So we get this first phrase of the solo. It looks like this. All right, so that's a bend at the 9th fret there on the G string, kind of a bend and release, and then back up. Then you can add some vibrato there. And then you're gonna grab the 10th fret while this is bent. You're gonna grab the 10th fret there on the B string, then back down to the 9, and release that bend. So this. Sorry, one more time. Release that bend and go. So that's 7, bend at the 9, back to the 7. We're going to end this phrase. So that's picking 9 twice on the G string. Pull off to 7. Over to 9 on the D. Then back to 7 on the G string. And then pull off 9 to 7 on the D. Then back over to that 7th fret there on the G. All right, next phrase. All right, so that's gonna slide into this double stop here. So slide up to the 11th fret there on the G string. Then you're gonna add the 10th fret there on the B when you get up there. You do that a couple times. Then we have. So that's gonna hit the 12th fret there on the high E string real quick. And then a bend on the 12th fret on the B string, a whole step bend. Then a gradual release. All right, so then we play 10 to 12 on the beat. Into these bends. Now these bends are kind of tricky. You're gonna hold the 10th fret there on the B string, and then bending up the 11th fret on the G, and then come down to the 7th fret there on the B, and then the 9th fret on the G. You're gonna bend up the 9th fret. Now that's more typical way of doing a unison bend. Here, That's a lot harder because he's bending up like a step and a half with this finger while trying to push this one up to match it. Because if you have a floating trim system, when you you bend a string, the other one goes out of tune. So you gotta then slightly bend that one to try to match it. So it's one of those you just gotta go for it. All right, so we have that, and then we have this next phrase. All right, so that one's a little bit longer. It wasn't a really good spot to stop there. So it starts some bends, kind of a bend and release, and then back up at the 17th fret there on the B string. And then he picks it, and then kind of slightly bring it down, and then bring it back up. And then that's 15 on the B string, slight bend at the 17th fret there on the B, and then back to 15. And then we start this sequence that kind of goes across. All right, so that one's a little tricky. It's got some kind of some odd notes in there that he uses. He likes to do some little chromatic things here or there. But it all works. He's going through it so fast. It kind of sounds, everything sounds good. So we're gonna start here. So he's gonna pick the top note, the 17th fret there twice, pull off to 15 on the B, over to 16 on the G string. So that's the pattern of da 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 bo 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 bo. It's kind of the top notes always picked twice, the first note. And then, so we have that, and then we're gonna start that again here, but at the 15th fret. So you can pick the 15th fret on the B string twice, and then pull off 16, 14 on the G. Then you're gonna play 16 on the G string twice, pull off to 14, over to 16 on the D. So it is. Then then it gets a little bit trickier. He kind of goes across strings. He goes, pick 14 twice on the G string, 16 on the D, and then 17 on the A. Then it gets easier after that one. So it goes, you're gonna pick 16 again on the D string twice, pull off to 15. Here's where the notes get a little odd at the very end. Over to 17 there on the A. And then you're gonna pick 15 twice on the D. Sorry. Slide down to 14, over to 15 on the A string. And then you go back to the 14 on the D and slide down to 12. So we have this all together. From there into, you can do this, you can do that there as well too. There's no really a video I could find of him actually playing the solo. But it feels better to come down here to the G string here and kind of bend up that 9th fret on the G while you kind of pull the trim system back as well. Release, you kind of, when he comes back down, he does a little depress of the bar. And then he's gonna grab a quick little, one of those kind of accentuating bends, where you're just kind of picking that 7th fret there on the G, you slightly pull it downward, over to the 9th fret there on the D. Then we have this. So we have this 9th fret on the D played twice, pull off to 7, over to 9 on the A, and then back to 7 on the D string, and then you're gonna go back to that 9 on the A, pull off 9 to 7, slide down to 5, and you can kind of do a slight bend there. All right, and then we have this next phrase, looks like this. Obviously, that's a lot faster than the actual solo, but you saw that earlier. So we're going to start here. It's the kind of the pattern that he uses a lot in his solos. We're going to play 12 on the A string, hammered 13, 14. Go over to 12 on the D string, back to 14 on the A, then roll over to 14 on the D string, and then back to the 14 on the A. If you want to just use your pinky up top, it's fine too. So we have that lick there, and then the same thing in octave higher, starting with the 14th fret there on the D string. So we have 14, hammer 15, hammer 16, 14 on the G, back to 16 on the D, roll over to 16 on the G, back to 14 on the D. All right, and now we're going to start this little lick. We're going to start first with, you're going to play 14, 16, and you're going to do a bend on the 16th fret. And then we start this little, so what's this? You're going to be playing it kind of a trill there. That much of it, so just kind of play 14, hammer 15, pull back off of 14, hammer 15, block. And then come over to the 17th fret there on the G string, then back up to the 14th fret on the G string. And then you kind of do the same thing, except instead of it being between 14 and 15 on the B, it's 17 and 14. Then back down to the 17 on the G and 14 back to the B. So it's kind of like, and then back to the previous way of doing it, which is between 15 and 14. All right, so after you've gotten back to that 14th fret there on the B string here, now we do this little, so what's going on there? We basically are, so remember, it's coming from right there. This is where we're going to pick up. We're playing here a little, once again, out of the blues scale, which is 17 there on the G string, pull off to 16, pull off to 14, hammer back on 16 and 17, up to 14 on the high E string, then pull off 17, 14 on the B string, and then 17, 16, 14 on the G. And then into a bend there at the 17th fret on the high E string. Release, pick the note without the bend, and then up to the 19th fret there, bend on the high E string. All right, from there we have this nice little melody. So that's going to slide into the 22nd fret on the high E string with some vibrato bar action, and then pull off to the 17th fret. Then that's 14, 15, 14, 15, into a whole side bend. And you're going to end the solo like this. So that's a 2 whole step bend at the 22nd fret. So you basically want to sound like that F sharp up top. Well, obviously it's an E now, 2 down, whole step, but 2 whole steps there at the 22nd fret, 2 whole step bend. And then we're going to descend here. 22, 19, 22, 19, done that twice on the high E. Then 22, 19 one time on the B. Then we're going to play 22, 21, 19 on the G string twice. So we have this. Then what is that? 21-19 on the D, and then 21-20-19 on the A, and then 22-19 on the low E. So you slide that down, and then you try to lay back on. Kind of he does that some at the very end there. You hear like the delays carrying it over the acoustic stuff. All right, so just towards the end of the song, that's it for the solo. It's a very, very epic solo there. Then we get to the same bridge acoustic kind of stuff, and the same kind of harmony guitar parts over it, and then it just gets back to the chorus, kind of extended chorus. And once again, it's the chorus that you're going to be doing that open G a lot in it. That so I kind of get that open G in there, kind of make it sound nasty. All right, and then at the end of the song, that's all it does. He kind of does that without the open G. Just kind of holds it. Kind of holds that note and just lets it feed back and stuff, and that's the end of the track. So it's a great song by the unbelievable Dimebag, Daryl, and Pantera. So hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon for GuitarLessons365.com.